Okay, friends, we are back today, and we are taking kind of a hard right here, and we're going to do a top 10 list that many people have encouraged me to do. Some of you might think that I spend all day and all night reading religious texts and volumes, and while that might be true sometimes, there was a long stretch of 2 years where more often than not, once or twice a week during the evenings, I would actually say, you know what? I would love to dip into the great canon of film, the filmography of Nicolas Coppola, also known as Nicolas Cage. And I watched, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 movies of his during that time, of which many were absolutely terrible. And so I think I have some street credibility to tell you my top 10 worst Nicolas Cage movies of all time. And there are so many. There just are so many bad ones, and so I'm gonna try to be economic with my list here. There are so many bad ones. I'm gonna try to be succinct with the list so we cover more ground than maybe trying to itemize how many bad ones could fit into one spot. However, there are some redeeming movies in a certain period of time I will discuss and bring some of those out too. There are some redeeming movies during this later stage of Cage, this later Cage stage of Nicholas, that are some good movies that I do want to reveal. And there's of course some classics during his heyday that I just want to remind people about, that he's still a great actor in his own right historically. Though in recent times, we really are saddened by where his career has gone. So without further ado, I am going to lump together between 10 and 6. So in 5 slots, I'm going to lump together the year of our Lord 2007 to present day. So the 40 or 50 movies, I think he made 10 movies alone in 2019 that were direct to Netflix or direct to video. There are so many bad movies in that span. There's so many bad movies from 2007 till now. So to get more specific, ever since National Treasure Book of Secrets, the second movie in that series, that was 2007, kind of around that time till now, we have really entered into late Cage stage Nicholas mode, where it is basically he plays one or two characters, an assassin bent on revenge or a mentor to some mentee, and that's kind of his two characters he's got. And then the great movies during this time are when he deviates from that and he actually tries. And of course, the directing and the acting around him is good too. And he actually says, okay, I'm actually going to try in this movie. And he actually does it, and it's incredible. So again, there's glimmers, there's flickers of glory in Cage and late stage Cage, but not much. So 10 through 6, I'm lumping in pretty much every movie, though there's a few that I would say no, that are very good. But between 2007 and 2021, I'm just going to say there's just a big blob of sin. There's just a huge blob of sin known as Nicolas Cage's last 15 years of movies. Now, there's a few I would not include in that, which I will tell you about toward the very end, that I would say, no, these are pretty good movies. Though, again, Nicolas Cage movies are not family friendly, so don't take this as, yeah, go watch these with your kids. Like, these are adult movies, and even for adults, some of these, we should probably take some precaution of what we're watching here. Okay, so Nicolas Cage has 100 movie credits and over and counting. And again, most of those ended up in 10 through 6 in the Blob of Sin, known as 2007 through 2021. So National Treasure Book of Secrets and on. So number 5 was, and I remember watching this movie when it's the summer before I went to college. I remember it came out, and or it might have been right when I got into college. I cannot remember. That was a long time ago, 20 years ago. But Captain Crowley's Mandolin, 2001. If you know any of Nicolas Cage's movies, he's not very good with accents. Every time he tries an accent, it is terrible. This is one of the worst accent efforts I've seen, where he's supposed to play like this Sicilian captain in the World War II conflict in Italy. And of course, Penelope Cruz is his love interest, and he's supposed to also be bought as playing the mandolin. He doesn't even have a good accent, and I could not watch that movie without laughing because of how bad his accent was. So again, the movie itself is not necessarily terrible. It's probably an average movie. But his accent is so bad, and his mandolin playing is so bad, it makes two of the words of the three in the title completely farcical. Captain, okay, Corelli, I don't believe you're a Sicilian. It's mandolin, and you can't play mandolin. So you're 1 for 3. So I can't believe you. So that hits up on my top 10 list, making number 5. Pretty terrible. Nicolas Cage as an Italian captain in World War II does not cut it for me. Number 4, and this one is the movie itself, again, average movie, not a terrible movie, but it's who Nicolas Cage plays in the movie and the fallout from the movie, which is just fantastic to me, is that the Sorcerer's Apprentice was billed as kind of supposed to be the next great Harry Potter, along with many other fantasy series, were be kind of billed as the next great science fiction fantasy series for children and for families. Okay, so Nicolas Cage basically plays this, this sorcerer. You're supposed to believe. It's just hard to think. I remember watching the movie like, this is completely unbelievable. He doesn't play any fantasy characters very often in his movies, and it's just, it's funny. And the young guy that's in the movie is pretty good, and then Alfred Molina plays the villain, and he's actually very good always, but he kind of reprises his role where he was Doc Ock in the Spider-Man movie from Tobey Maguire's first movie in the Spider-Man reboot. But yeah. But Cage is just over the top. He's over the top. Every scene he's like blasting a building or giving a one-liner to the kid, and it's just very. It doesn't give a lot of character focus. It's just kind of entertainment. It's just mindless entertainment, and so the movie's just kind of terrible. Now the fallout from it is that the movie performed so bad, the entire franchise got canceled. So that's why it's got to get top 5 for me. It's so horrible. The movie itself is average. Cage is just over the top in it as always. And then the whole franchise gets canceled because of how badly it performs. And that's mainly on Cage, because he was supposed to be the lead in it, So, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, 2010, number 4. Number 3, it's a hard choice, these last 3. They're so bad. But I would put Left Behind, the 2014 version. I think the guy's name, I cannot remember his name, it was Brayton Steele or Raymond Steele. But he's basically a flight attendant or flight captain. And what makes this movie so horrible is, first of all, it was universally panned by critics, but Left Behind was a popular series for children, kind of a fundamentalist Christianity in a lot of ways. Again, not trying to disparage that view completely, but the fictionalized version of this theological viewpoint, what was really more in its prime in the 90s, up to about 2000, and Kirk Cameron made a fairly interesting movie about it, and his version is actually better than Cage's version. But it comes like 15, 20 years after the movie. The books were relevant for kids. No one's really reading them anymore. And then again, the movie itself is absolutely horrible. It's terrible. It's not interesting or entertaining at all. Then it's more of just an action movie that has kind of a secular take on this supposed to be very, very deeply rooted faith apocalyptic worldview. So it doesn't even get that right. So it's way on the end of being relevant. It's a terrible movie. It focuses on action instead of the apocalypse. It's secular really instead of faith-oriented. It just gets everything wrong. And again, Cage I feel just takes a paycheck. It's a terrible, terrible movie. So I put that one as number 3. Number 2 is really one of the great highlights of the worst, though it could be number 1 because of how much attention was given to it in viral videos after it came out. So, I mean, personal PC started to get really popular in families, where a lot of families in America would have them in the mid-90s and later on, and then by 2005, everyone kind of started having phones and things like this. But really, viral videos did not become kind of this universal thing until mid-2000s, early 2000s, mid-2000s. And then, if there was a joke, it becomes some universal joke, Well, Wicker Man, the rebooting of Wicker Man in 2006, that was a remake of the 1973 version with Christopher Lee, which is absolutely horrifying, absolutely terrifying movie. This movie is absolutely horrible, absolutely terrible, and it is absolutely comical. It is the complete opposite of what the intention was. And if Nicolas Cage he's this lawman, he comes in to investigate pagan rituals and missing persons, and if he's not screaming at women, he's punching them, It's like he's attacking every woman in sight, and then if he's not getting attacked by a woman because of his outrage and his hot on the trail pursuit of some sort of crime going on there with the missing person case he's investigating, he gets attacked by like CGI bees. I mean, so again, the viral videos that get put out from mid 2000s and on capture the bee attack of Nicolas Cage, and it becomes really a universal joke. Which then, of course, he kind of becomes a universal joke, and the movie is just so bad. And then there's another great scene that becomes a viral video, and again, I'll have to I'll layer it here in a second, but in the very end of the movie, where a pagan ritual of sacrificing a person is supposed to be taking place on this little mountaintop, this little hill, and he's watching it, he tries to intervene by running up to it in a bear costume and punching the woman who's trying to sacrifice the girl. And in the movie, in the actual movie, it just looks ridiculous. In the actual movie, it's like, this is just dumb. This is just dumb. There's no tension. There's no drama. It's just stupid. Well, in the viral videos, they capture Cage in slow motion. And then another one captures him, and they set the Chariots of Fire scene to it. I mean, it just gets worse and worse and funnier and funnier. And so the movie itself is already terrible. But then with the viral videos that are attached to it, it's maybe one of the worst he's ever done. And it's just incredible. So that would be number 2, Wicker Man, 2006. My number 1, and there are so many reasons why. My number 1 is, again, to build on the themes of Nicolas Cage is not this person. Like, there is no way in the world you can believe that he is this guy. Okay? So, like Captain Crowley's mandolin, yes, he has an Italian descent, but he's not Sicilian. He doesn't have the accent down. He can't play mandolin, and he's supposed to be a leading role doing both. Well, it's more of the same in Bangkok Dangerous in 2008. Bangkok Dangerous is absolutely incredible. It is the worst, bad, funny movie you can find of his. I just think it's incredible. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times, and I just laugh so hard every time I watch this. It's like Karate Kid meets an action movie that doesn't have any action. It is like absolutely incredible. And then on top of that, just to make sure that you don't believe anything you're watching, Nicolas Cage is supposed to be a believable Asian assassin. He's supposed to be somehow believable in an Asian context with some kind of like, you can believe him into a kind of a Thailand environment. And how do they accomplish this? By his surroundings? Sure. But the biggest draw to make sure you believe that he truly could fit into this Thailand environment is by dyeing his hair jet black and having it down to his shoulders. And so you're supposed to believe Nicolas Cage is this carefully crafted, intentional, long-term resume hitman in Asia, because he has some long dyed black hair to his shoulders. And there's some scenes in this movie that you've just got to watch them. I cannot describe them. I would do an injustice. I would embarrass myself trying to show how incredible these scenes are, where he basically tries to act out a Karate Kid scene with his Padawan that he's trying to teach to become kind of the new him as an assassin down the road. And he's taking one last job, and he's got this guy along for the road, and he's trying to teach him along the way. And the way that he trains him looks like Nicolas Cage has never tried to do any form of karate or taekwondo ever in his life. And not only are the motions labored, they're slow, and it's almost like they think they're being serious, and then they look back and they're like, that wasn't it, but they just kept the cut. It's just so bad, and it's so funny. And the thing is, the movie's supposed to be this action-packed movie, but yet they switched the narrative because it's a remake. The movie was originally made in Thailand, where the actual action hero was a mute. So you're supposed to kind of believe in his inner strength and believe in his resolve, and that is kind of powerful if you think about that. Well, in the Bangkok Dangerous American version, they switch it. They don't make Nicolas Cage a mute. They make his Thailandese girlfriend a mute. And it's just like, what? And so it completely changes the dynamic of the movie, and it almost makes his character a joke more and more. So again, it completely screws up the narrative there. it takes away that, I think, the only powerful element it might have had, it takes away, and it puts it upon his girlfriend, which then it creates kind of this rescue scenario. And so again, the movie is absolutely horrible, and it is so funny. You got to watch it for yourself. 2008's Bangkok Dangerous. So what are a few of his movies that are redeemable during this time, and really some of his better movies? And again, that's not what this video is about, but we do need to redeem Nicolas Cage. There are a few things about Nicolas Cage in the last 15 years and his movies that I think are pretty decent. Two of which I would say, well, let me start with his more classic movies, his 90s movies. But three, of course, are his three classic action movies. Number one would be The Rock with Sean Connery in 1996, and this is a great movie. It's kind of like a light version of a buddy cop movie, but it's really good because there's some real drama in the movie. There's some great action. There's some good villains in the movie. The pacing is outstanding. And Connery and Cage are just, their banter is great. Their banter is really good. They play off each other really, really well. And Cage is allowed to be Cage, and it works, and it's great. That's how a Cage movie works. If Cage is allowed to be Cage, and there's enough supporting acting around him, and the script is good, it typically is an amazing movie. Face Off in 1995, I think it's 95, no, 97, with Travolta, same kind of movie in a lot of ways. Kind of Cage is allowed to be Cage to the nth degree, but it's played off well with Travolta, along with the ensemble. It's good, and I mean, John Woo is an incredible director, so again, he has the ensemble to support the insanity, the eccentricity of Cage. And then, of course, Con Air is, to me, one of his best. It's definitely one of his most popular, and it's just a really fun character that he plays. He's basically a convict who's been unjustly accused, and he's on a plane flight with a bunch of criminals and villains who try to take over the plane and crash land in the wilderness. And it's a great, simple action movie, but a great character. And he's got the long hair that actually looks kind of believable in this movie, as opposed to Bangkok Dangerous. And then there's a couple movies in the past 15 years that have been okay of his. But two specifically are pretty decent. One's kind of a remake, kind of a modern take on a scary movie called Mom and Dad, and it's really pretty funny. It's basically a reverse plot on the Purge series with Ethan Hawke, where it's basically one day a year everyone just goes ballistic on each other. Where in this movie, once a year the parents go ballistic on the kids. And again, scary movies, some people just don't get this, but a lot of scary movies are just social narratives that have kind of a fantasy version kind of layered over it. And the goal is not to be taken literally. The goal is to say it's a commentary on social tension with parents and kids. You know, the anxiety of being a parent, and that's real. I mean, I have 2 kids going on 3 here, so yeah, it's real. So that's a great movie. That's a really good one, and he's allowed to be Cage in the movie, and it's really good. And then I think his best movie in the last 15 years or 16 years is a movie in 2013 that he filmed with Ty Sheridan, the young teenage actor, who was also in Mud with Matthew McConaughey in 2014, I think. And he plays a similar character here, basically, as kind of a youthful version of the adult. And there's kind of a mirroring effect in the movie, and it's a powerful movie. So Mud's a great movie, but that's not the one I'm talking about. It's called Joe from 2013, and Nicolas Cage plays a kind of a paroled convict who's kind of a lumber contractor, and he's trying to basically redeem his life. He makes a decision based upon this kid who reminds him of himself, that he's going to redeem his life. It's a very actually powerful movie. You should watch it. If you're an adult, you should watch this movie. It's very powerful. And the young boy is being abused by an alcoholic father, an old man who's actually kind of an extra they just used, and so it's very believable. There's not a lot of acting. It's more just the ethos of it. And he comes and basically rescues this kid who he sees as himself as a young person that did not make the right decisions, did not come out of that the right way. And so he tries to basically be a redeeming, saving character in the movie, and it's extremely powerful. It's a very moving film. So I would tell you, watch 2013's Joe. However, that movie cannot make up for his transgressions the last 15 years. And so, again, Cage is going to be Cage, and the last 3, the last third of the Cage stage is absolutely terrible. And I think every movie I put in here, yeah, except for Wicker Man, was in 2016, every movie that's in the top 10 worst, it's included somehow in the last 15 years of the Cage stage. So I hope that that entertains you a little bit. So just kind of know, stay away from direct-to-video. or direct-to-video movies of Cage in the last 15 years or so. Though he does have a few movies of Renaissance in there, and of course he's got some great movies in the early '90s and the late '90s as well. So happy viewing.